Good evening, everybody. First of all, let me thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you all this evening. Blair County Republicans and our brothers and sisters over at the Huntington County GOP stand for free and open primaries because we believe, ultimately, that competition is good. Because we believe it's right to examine the records of incumbents. And yes, we believe that no incumbent is entitled to an automatic re-election. I hope we will always honor this fundamental principle and never regress into a culture of complacency where we re-elect incumbents because of their position and not because of their record. Some of you may know, others may not, that I was a pastor for 15 years, and so I have built into me a curious kind of attitude towards history, so I did a little bit of historical study of the Blair County Republican Party for this evening. Did you know that 37 Lincoln Day dinners ago in 1987, Blair County Republicans did something many county and state parties would never dare to do? They invited one of the most recognizable and outspoken Christian conservative leaders to give the keynote address at this event. That person's name, the Reverend Pat Robertson. It was courageous then because if you go back 40 years, the Pennsylvania Republican Party wasn't necessarily the party of life or traditional values. We were the party of fiscal conservatism for sure, but until Reagan came along, there was no real room at the head table for so-called social conservatives. We had to sit over in the corner at the kids' table. But this party, the Blair County Republican Committee, opened the door for social conservatives, and they opened it wide. And let me tell you something, friends. People of moral conviction and traditional values are here to stay. Now, maybe some of you were there that night in 1987, and you remember what when Pat said this. I dream of a time in America when husbands and wives love each other, when families hold together and children can once again pray in schools. The Tyrone Herald said that those lines brought a, quote, rousing cheer from the 500 attendees that were there that night. Wow. He then went on to speak about building a culture of life and millions of babies who would never have the chance to see the light of day or to grow up in America to enjoy living and learning. And then he said this, I'm dreaming of a time when criminals are put in jail and innocent people live in the cities without fear. In a time when we put an end once and for all to the mob-supported pornography and drug trade, which is debasing and destroying our children, our families, and everything we believe in. But friends, here we are almost 4 decades later. And 1 in 5 pregnancies in the state of Pennsylvania end in abortion every year. The pornography industry has been normalized, even mainstreamed. And our cities are being defined by a murder rate that is going up, businesses that are moving out, and property values that are plummeting. Now, I know there's a group out there politically that says, hey guys, look, you won the big one. Roe v. Wade was overturned. But we're a state with modern sensibilities. We've got to move on. Stop talking about all this divisive pro-life stuff. They say that we don't have the right to say what an ideal family looks like. That we can't talk about family as a committed mother and a father and children living under the same roof. They say that instead of fighting against the normalization of illegal drugs, we should normalize it and then tax it. And according to Governor Shapiro's new proposed budget, he wants to spend billions more from taxing illicit drugs so that they can pay for a school system that just isn't working. So they can pay for a bureaucratic approach to education which refuses to innovate by allowing parents to choose the school that's right for their own child. Now, friends, let me go on the record tonight and say that I stand with law enforcement. I am not being persuaded by big marijuana's push for full-scale legalization. I think the governor's plan to fund schools with revenue generated from recreational marijuana is a bad idea with hidden costs that we cannot afford. That's why I will be a hard no vote on the House floor next year. Absolutely no to funding schools with pot money, period, full stop. Friends, if Pennsylvania's public schools aren't doing the job with about $17,000 on average per year per student, a few billion more being thrown at the problem isn't going to improve test scores. And it certainly isn't going to give great teachers like my wife Beth the tools they need to turn things around. So let's be honest, okay? Let's be honest. The biggest obstacle to education reform in Pennsylvania is a 4-letter word, and you can spell it PSEA. That's right. For decades, they have blocked vouchers of any form or any other form of school choice. They have opposed expanding tax credits and lifeline scholarships that allow kids to escape violent and failing city schools. They refuse to side with girls in sports who are outraged by our inability to say once and for all that only biological girls should compete on girls' teams. And the kicker, only biological boys should compete on boys' teams. In fact, in my estimation, the PSEA has been on the wrong side of just about every single social issue in the last 10 years. Everything from critical race theory to pornographic material on display in our school libraries. They've been wrong over and over again. The PSEA's statewide political action committee is a progressive organization with progressive goals, and they do not support parents and they do not support students. No Republican legislator should ever stand with the PSEA. And if any Republican legislator has taken even $1 from this union, they should return that money today, no questions asked. Now, we're a free market crowd. We believe in competition. And so since this is a crowd that believes in things like free markets and free people, by the way, principles that have been around and part of our party platform since, well, Abraham Lincoln. There's one organization that is standing in the way of lower taxes, smaller government, affordable labor for public projects. They're not our friend. They're not a friend to working people. They're the driving force behind a movement to stop the exodus of working people from the Democratic Party. They are the backbone of every economic policy of the Biden administration. And they are the most powerful obstacle in the way of prevailing wage reform and workers' rights to keep their money from supporting political causes that they don't agree with. Of course, I'm speaking of the AFL-CIO. Now, the AFL-CIO in the last election only found 2 Republican state representatives who supported their agenda enough to earn their unqualified endorsement. That's how progressive the AFL-CIO is. I think it's time to stand up to them and tell them that every time they oppose free people and their right to support the politicians that they choose, they can expect conservatives from the 80th district to oppose them. Let me be clear, in case I haven't been already. I'm not going to be a candidate for organized labor. I will not be a spokesperson for any special interest group. If you give me the privilege of serving you in Harrisburg, I will be the voice for only one group: we, the taxpayers. Now, one more thing. There's only one way we're going to move the conservative agenda forward. There's only one way that we'll have the opportunity to deliver on our promises, and that is to win back control of the House of Representatives. Because the battle for the 80th district will be decided in the primary, the winner of that primary can devote their time and resources to erasing that one-seat deficit in the House and winning back the Speaker's gavel. Folks, I'm not in this race just to put the 80th district back into the conservative column. I'm in this race to take back the gavel from the Democrats by winning back a majority in Harrisburg. So, if this is who you are, if you are a Republican who wants to extend full legal protections to unborn children, a Republican who will not give up on the mission of every child living and growing up in a safe and welcoming Pennsylvania, if you are a Republican who wants parents and not the PSEA to decide the school that is best for your child, the school that is aligned with your values, if you want to return power to the parents, if you're the kind of conservative who wants to trust that the most important vote that your state representative will make, the vote for Speaker of the House, will always be a vote for a Republican Speaker every time, no matter what, and I mean no matter what, then this campaign is your campaign. I am honored to be your candidate. Thank you so much for giving me the privilege of speaking tonight. Now let's get to work and win on April 23rd. Let's take back the Republican House majority, take back the gavel, and stand up for the taxpayers. Thank you, and God bless.